Hi, everybody. Welcome to your Nexus report for Friday, the 10th of November, 2017. That'll take us through the Veterans Day weekend. And on this particular holiday, needless to say, our hearts go out to all of our veterans for all of the wounds that they bring back with them, in many cases, psychological wounds, all of that. There is certainly half the country or more that has nothing but undying respect for those of you who've served our country in whatever capacity, and we're very glad to have you home, for those of you that are home. But today I wanted to talk just briefly about a group of veterans that doesn't get too much mention, I think, and that would be what I would probably call our new veterans, our current veterans. I've been very hard on the snowflake generation, and for good reason. But I think this would be a very good time to just call your attention to one simple fact. It's been the signal honor of my life to have been able to have participated as a civilian in many of these military groups. I was privileged enough to go to Guantanamo Bay 2 times, voluntarily as it turned out. I spoke with Marine guards at Guantanamo Bay. I've been on board a Los Angeles class nuclear attack sub below the Pacific. I've been on an Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer, been to many Air Force bases, spoken to many Army personnel, and so on and so on and so on. The young people that we have out there now are the most exceptional people, certainly in the country, and perhaps the most exceptional soldiers that we've ever produced. They are really extraordinary. I'll just tell you one very, very quick story. When I was on board the USS Spruance, an Arleigh Burke class destroyer, I had a chance, as all of us did on our group, to sit and have lunch with the enlisted personnel. And one of them was a young man from, I want to say the Bronx. It was one of the boroughs of New York City. He went to a sort of a technical school, and they had very, very little money. He was on the football team. He was one of the stars of the football team. They practiced in the park, and they had to move whenever people kind of came out there with their kids. And their first season, every single game was an away game. Every game. They didn't have a home field. And they lost every game, too. The next year, they went on to, I think, capture the league championship. This young man, when he's finished with the Navy, wants to go back and be a football coach there. And I told him what I would like to tell all of you who may be watching this, either as employers or as members of the military. I would hire him in a heartbeat. I'd hire anybody in the military in a heartbeat. Just the simple fact that you know how to show up for work on time is going to be of enormous value to you in this market, and as time goes on, it'll become more and more valuable. The discipline, the respect, the fundamental competency is astonishing, and the level of quality of people like that young man I spoke to inside the enlisted mess on the Spruance was indicative of the quality of the people I've met. The young people, and they're very young people, who are controlling things like an Aegis missile defense against potential incoming nuclear warheads, and the young men and women who are listening for enemy contacts hundreds of feet below the surface of the water for months on end. The very young woman who was in charge of damage control on board the Spruance was probably 100 pounds soaking wet, and she was 100% on the job. I had absolute and utter confidence in her. It was clear that the captain and the senior petty officers did as well. So for those of you out there who are either currently in the military or recently out of the military, you are members of the most lethal and the most decent fighting force in the history of the world. And it is an enormous honor to count so many of you as viewers and listeners and fans. It's been, as I said earlier, my signal honor to be able to tell a little bit of your stories. I'm looking forward to doing that in the future. So happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans, especially for those of you who are currently in the military, deployed, can't be home either for this holiday or perhaps for Thanksgiving or Christmas. You should know we're thinking about you all the time. We really are. And thank you for being out there so that we don't have to, so that we can go on and keep thinking about this country as the kind of Disneyland that you've all made it over the last 250 years. That'll do it for our Nexus report for the Veterans Day weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you very much for joining us. All made possible by the paying members at BillWhittle.com.